Hey, Sue. Hello, 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 hello.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hello, Mr. Joseph.
I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna wait a few minutes and get everybody
So,
on.
but anyways, I tried to send you the letter. Unfortunately, I can't.
Hold on a second. You trying to do what again?
I say I tried to send you the letter. So the letter I asked you to sign. I tried to send it to go on the thing to sign it, but I can't get it.
All right, I'll check when the webinar gets started. I'll check on the site and if for some reason you're not getting it. Okay.
Yeah, because
You should have gotten a letter from me. You should have gotten an engagement letter from me from Hello Sign. But I'll look for it and resend it once I get into the software.
yeah, I will be delighted if you do so, please. You don't mind if I turn my video my camera off?
Say that again, Jean-Marc.
If you don't mind if I just turn off my camera.
I'm having a hard time making out what you're saying. Say again.
So I say if you don't mind if I turn off the camera.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, I'm just trying to. I've got 9 panelists over in the bar. And I'm waiting. I've got a few attendees that are coming in. We're going to get back on tempo with doing these every 3 weeks or every 2 weeks rather, so that I can catch people up with what's happening with the case.
Joe, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
I can. You should be on the list now. I had one of my people go in and do a fix.
I'm on the hit list now.
So there's an echo. I think I need everybody who's not speaking to mute their mic. And then if there's 2 of you in the same room, you're going to have an echo. So say that again, Stephen.
Sorry, can you come off and mute? So I just was saying I was now on the hit list and I got the invite.
Great. Yeah. I tried to do it immediately last time we met, like I told you I would, and I ran into a technical glitch. I had to bring in support. Fortunately, the lady who runs my software was able to get it fixed the next day. So you should be getting anything that we send out group wide. I'm going to give everybody, it's about 10:02. I usually give everybody about 2 or 3 minutes to get in here. And I'm going to make sure, what I want to make sure everyone knows is that we're gonna be filing a retaliation claim against the government here, a separate cause of action. Because of some of these rifts that have gone on across, I mean, primarily we've seen it in the Voice of America side, but we also know that it's happening and it's not the only place that it's happening. So we're going to file, and the reason we're doing this, guys, is because we're crossing all of these. I don't want to geek out on you guys too badly, but we're crossing all of these jurisdictional lines with what we're doing. We're creating a lot of new law, which is kind of cool and exciting for me, but for you guys, seems like what the heck are you doing, Joe? A lot of it is just because, you know, that as I've explained to the crowd, to the group before, the government has the advantage of this. Really, we call it a threat. It's like a retroactive. It's kind of a throwback to jolly old England, right? So it's governmental immunity, which originates in the idea that you can't sue the king in his own court. So if the government is immune from suit, the only way you can reach the government with a lawsuit is in areas where they have waived immunity. And our argument is that the government did waive immunity in this issue of the Fair Labor Standards Act because they created a statute in which they named themselves as a possible defendant, right? So that we've overcome that hurdle. We're there. Now, the next hurdle is they're saying, well, we're immune from suit as it relates to retaliation because that's an action born in tort, which is, or an action which originates in tort. And we're saying, no, it isn't. The Fair Labor Standards Act statute expressly states you may not, retaliate or fire somebody or lower their pay because of their involvement in a lawsuit. And a lot of this retaliation stuff that, like, they laid off, I don't know, 1,400 people at Voice of America, literally on the heels of me arguing in the Court of Federal Claims for the on behalf of the group, like literally 3 weeks. So when we brought that up from a small number of folks, we filed it already in June of August of 2024. The court in April dismissed the claim, saying that the court doesn't have jurisdiction. So we took it up to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals said, well, the appeal's not ripe yet. So now I'm going to have to file a new action and on one issue of retaliation. Well, basically for firing a bunch of people and get the court to, what I assume the court will do is dismiss that. We'll take that portion, just the retaliation portion, up to the Court of Appeals. The other thing that's happening is that we're starting to do what I told you guys we're going to do. We're migrating through all of your statements that you guys put in Teams, or not Teams, in Clio, in the portal. And there you are, Jean-Marc. I'm looking for documents for you. And yeah, there's the agreement. All right, I'm going to resend that to you, Jean-Marc, right now. Okay, so it should hit your inbox today. So we're also going to be sending around. We're also going to be sending around to you what's called a Form 95. It's a government form. You sign that form. It is so that we can advance. Many of you have brought up complaints about being treated differently than your W-2 counterparts. And I've told you all that the way we bring that claim is through a state-based action. So as an example, many of you, like Sue and Steve, I'm not giving away state secrets. This isn't a complaint. They live in Colorado. Colorado has its own special brand of employment laws that we believe the government is violating. California, the same way. Virginia, Maryland, everywhere where you all live have your own state laws protecting you on what's supposed to happen, including misclassification. And the government has violated those laws. So we're going to file separate actions. Now, here's what's a little bit goofy and what I want to try to get out in a newsletter. It's going to require each of you to sign a separate engagement letter for that, what's called Federal Tort Claims Act action, because we're going to be filing a separate lawsuit. That's the bad news. The good news is the fees on those cases are statutorily lower. They're capped at 20% if we settle and 25% if we go to trial. So that means right now, most of you, almost, well, all of you are signed who have signed engagement letters are signed at a limit of 33% of whatever we recover. That's something I've covered many times on these meetings. We only get paid if we win money for you guys. And the percentage that we have negotiated between you and I is 33%. I will then turn around and negotiate with the government once we win to get the government to cover that 33%. So really your net payment to me should be as close to zero as I can get it. When we negotiate, and if we end up ultimately going, that'll be one of the tools that we use for settlement. If we end up going all the way to trial and a court makes a determination, then the court will award us attorney's fees and we won't have to negotiate with the government. We will have to negotiate with the court as far as how much of these attorney's fees are reasonable, which is why I record everything anyone does related to any of your cases. So we're going to have a giant block of time that we'll be able to present to the court when this all happens, when it comes to this, to say, look, you know, maybe as it relates to Sue or Steve, it's not a lot of hours, but as it relates to the whole group, it's going to end up being, and the whole group of us, you know, there's a lot of attorneys and paralegals and so forth working behind the scenes that a lot of you won't get to meet until later. Those folks are also doing work, putting together affidavits. You know, we're going to be hiring experts. We're going to be doing a lot of this stuff, and a lot of that stuff will be invisible. But when we go to file for fees, we'll put all of that in front of the court. Again, not in an attempt to get anything out of you guys, but an attempt to get the government to have to cover the cost of what it took for you to recover this money. Right? That's one of my jobs, is to make sure that you guys recover. And one of the ways we make sure you recover all of your money is that the damages are, as it relates, as far as the statute goes, is whatever the government owes you times 2. So what I wanted to let you know, my announcement for you guys this week is that, you know, I'm going to put this on an ongoing calendar basis. I'm hoping I'm going to get calendar invites out to you guys far enough in advance that if you've got friends or family or you know, people, coworkers, former coworkers that you believe would be advantaged by coming to these meetings, you can forward that to them and we'll get a good momentum going on this. The other thing is I want to announce that we're doing a retaliation claim. The third piece is I'm going to start circulating these Form 95s, which will necessarily incorporate your statements. So in other words, the statements that you guys have made in the portal, those statements will accompany the Form 95. What happens with those is they literally get mailed over, faxed over, emailed over. They get faxed over and mailed, honestly, to the government agency, announcing that, hey, we're suing you guys for all of these state law violations. That then puts them, the government lawyers, on a 6-month window. They have 6 months to say, yes, we'll pay you, or no, we won't pay you. And if they tell us in 3 months we're not going to pay you, then we can go straight to court and file a complaint. If they let 6 months go by without responding to us, we can go straight to court. The other alternative, which is you know, equally likely, they may say, yeah, we really screwed up here. We violated state law. Here's a settlement offer. Now, in those instances, unlike the action over to Fair Labor Standards Act claim, which is in front of the court, where I have to get court permission to settle, in those under the FTCA claim, you the individual will have the authority to say yes or no to the government's offer. So I'm going to kind of, just to let you know, I'm going to universally, you know, unless one objects and says it should be more, I'm going to, you know, my default is going to be $500,000. It's going to be default. Some of you, we might have a conversation and say, well, it should be more. Or some of you might say, well, that's a little absurd. I don't think I'm actually owed that much money. We'll fix that. But my default is going to be $500,000 to the claim. And what, just so you guys know, what the government might do is, like, they might say, okay, Karen, Laura, I will agree to settle your claim for $500,000 as an example. And you in exchange agree to all other suits related to the case. And you will have that discretion. I won't be able to make that call for you. you will have the authority to make that call or not. You can say yes or no, right? Or you can make a counteroffer. You can say, well, if you want me to drop all my suits and I want 600,000 or 700,000 or $1 million, whatever it is, but you'll have the authority to counteroffer if you want to do that. And that'll be more, because the way the Federal Tort Claims Act works is you cannot take that case to federal court until you've given it. Basically, you have to give the government an opportunity to settle under the law. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm into this meeting. Looks like 13 minutes. That's kind of my normal standard. I am going to do what I'm keeping an eye on attendees, making sure everybody who wants to get in is. There's right now there's about 20 of us. What I'm going to do is what I do every week is that you all have a panel. You're all, and at the bottom of that panel is a hand. And if you want to raise your hand, I'm trying to get my screen to open up entirely here. There it is. You can raise your hand, and I will call on you in the order in which, in case you have any questions. There's no requirement to have questions. If you don't have any questions, you don't have any questions. But if you do have a question, I'll answer it for the benefit of the whole group. The other thing that you should know, and this is customary, everyone who's done more one of these or more knows this. There's a recording of this going on right now. I will circulate that recording. Will pop up on in my software in about 30 minutes after we're done here. I will circulate that recording to everybody that I've sent an invitation to. So there's no real risk of people missing information. And the next thing I'm going to do, and this is a little bit of an addition, there is a website that I'm going to drop in the chat that we created in Squarespace just for this group. And it's called GovRights. GovOT Rights. .com, I think. I'm not sure. All right, I'm going to find it, drop it in the panel. It should have been, it's in the newsletter that we send out every time also. But what I'm going to start doing, the reason I'm bringing that up is that I am going to take our webinars and post them on that page so that you can direct your friends to that page and they can catch up with what's happening with the case without having to wait for the next webinar. That's US Gov Rights, usgovot2rights.com. I'm going to drop that in the chat here for everyone to see. And then the other thing I'm going to do is what I always do is I'm going to drop a form just in case there's somebody on this webinar who has not signed up for the group or signed up to be on the case. They can fill out this form and they will be added to the case. Some of you will have the good pleasure of hearing from Mrs. Whitcomb. She has joined the fight. She's working from home. She's basically going through as a backstop, making sure we don't accidentally or inadvertently miss anybody, make sure there's a portal open for everybody. Don't worry, I am paying her, but she's going through. So you may hear from a Carol Lee Whitcomb. She's my wife. She's an official W-2 employee of Whitcomb Selinsky as of recent. She's probably one of the hardest recruits I've ever had come into the firm. I spent the last 13 years trying to recruit her, and she's finally decided to come on. But you guys may hear from her, and she'll send you out a link or questions or whatever. If there's a form that wasn't signed, she may send it out to you guys and remind you. So that's all. That's why I'm going to leave it for now, and now I'm going to open it to questions. I don't see any hands up. If anybody has any questions, just go ahead down to the bottom of that screen, hit raise your hand, and then I'll call on you. And just as a test, I should have asked at the beginning, has anybody had any difficulty hearing me so far? I mean, I had a little bit of a test with John Mark at the beginning, so I'm pretty confident everybody can hear me. Nobody had any difficulty hearing me? All right. Guys, I'll give it a few more minutes for people who might have questions. If you don't currently have any questions, no harm, no foul. I'll send this video around. Be on the lookout. There's also the Forrester Haney guys that I mentioned last time. They're working down in Dallas. One of my paralegals, Callie, lives down there now. She'll be going into that office a couple of days a week, working with one of those paralegals. Again, those folks all they're going to be doing is like taking your statements that you've already given me. They'll be putting those into affidavits and then sending them back out to you for signatures. Just so what we're doing is we're trying to get this court, who's moving very slowly right now, to certify, in air quotes, certify the collective action so that we can get notices out to the 10,000 or so folks that have been affected by the government's behavior. And that, in my mind, will be the linchpin to the case. That'll be the thing that causes the government to finally capitulate and start writing checks for you guys. And that's why I'm still keeping my eye. I'm staying focused like a laser beam on getting this case as close to resolve as possible in 2026. Even if that just looks like, all right, we have an offer from the government on, for something, and then you at least the conversation around money has started. All right, I do not see any raised hands. I will send a record. I'm going to give you guys another 30 seconds. If I don't see any raised hands, I will let you guys know. Again, be on the lookout for these meetings every couple of weeks. I'll update you on what's going on. Just from a statistics standpoint, you guys should know there's about 220 people that are currently actively opted into this case. When we file the retaliation claim, that'll be when that case finally makes it through the Court of Appeals, it comes back down. That'll just be consolidated with the other cases. So no one will lose any time. The reason for the retaliation claim is for forward-looking money for people who have been separated from the government for reason, like the whole VOA basically got separated. And my argument is there's no reason. The courts have already found there's no reasonable basis for doing it. Nadia.
Yes, do you hear me?
I can.
You can hear me good. Hi, hello everyone. Good afternoon. This is my first time talking to you. I sent you my statement lately. I hope you receive it.
We certainly did.
Yeah. So among of the people who created the PSC group, and I'm happy to participate. But I was just concerned. This is my first meeting attending. I was just hearing the other meetings from what you share with us. I was just want to ask that the statement, if not enough, I feel like I didn't add some few things like we didn't have like retirement, or you gonna like some of the stuff with VOA is like similar to each other. Like we didn't have any benefit, we are treated different, plus our personal issues we faced there in VOA. Everyone has a different story, and that's why we wrote our story differently. I hope you could consider.
Not only are we going to consider it, Nadia, that's when you hear from my paralegals, each of you will hear from probably at least one paralegal, right?
Oh, okay.
That is going to be to make sure that that story, before we send it over to the government, that's going to land in that Form 95 piece that we talked about, where we're suing the government under state law, federal court. So do you live on East or West Coast? Do you live on the East Coast?
No, I live in Washington, D.C. And during my work, I live in D.C. and Maryland. So I was living between these two states.
So what we will be doing, Nadia, and as an example, is we will be suing the federal government under Maryland employment law.
Because I was living in Maryland longer, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, and there'll be a bunch of you. There's a whole cluster of you that worked in Maryland, Virginia, DC. Another cluster that lived in California, some that lived in Georgia. And we're going to be suing the government on, and what it could look like, what it won't look like, but it could look like 50 different lawsuits in 50 different states. Fortunately for us, the courts do not require that. We can sue in Maryland, for example, the federal government with a cluster of employees, because you can reach the government anywhere. You can reach the federal government in any state in the union, in the Marianas Islands, Puerto Rico.
Yes, because I paid a lot of tax to Maryland.
Yeah, that's right, right.
Tax went to Maryland.
But we'll sue the government in Maryland and if let's say we sue the government of Maryland or Virginia, we will include Maryland, Virginia, DC employees, and we'll sue them under various state laws because a lot of the stuff that you're talking about, Nadia, and many people have very similar stories where they were not just deprived of overtime and minimum wage, but they were also, you had to pay 7.65% in extra taxes. You didn't get the benefit of the health insurance. You didn't get thrift savings plan matching. You didn't get, there's a host of damages that you guys experienced because you were misclassified or because you were PSC'd or because of whatever the case might have been. You were treated differently and unfairly. So we'll attack that under the state law. But what the way that law reads, the way the Federal Torts Claims Act reads, is that unlike the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is what we're suing under in federal court, we have to send over, if there's 500 of you or 1,000 or 1,500, we have to send 1,500 Form 95s over to the government individually. Now that's it's a lot of work, but in a way it really works in your benefit, because if we were suing, Colgate over bad toothpaste, right? Let's use that as a class action, or Ford Motor Company because of bad tires, right? Then calculating each individual's damages is very difficult to do, but because it's all lumped together in one suit. But based on each one of you, as you've already pointed out, Nadia, every one of you will have a different story and will be harmed in a different way, not necessarily in a different way. Like it might have been overtime shortage, or it might have been like you didn't get benefits, or you didn't get, matching 401k, or you didn't get any of these other things that you would have gotten.
They keep promising us. There is so many emails from the government telling PSCs that we are working on your 401k. We're working even like individually. If we went by ourselves, by this time we save some money, because they keep promising us every time. There's a lot of emails they used to send it from the HR that we are working on this project. We are consulting about your benefit. And then last year, before we leave, they just tell us in the last meeting that, we couldn't do that. Like the regulation is hard, so we are not going to give it to you. But the last 5 years, they keep promising all the PSCs that we're working on something. That also has to be included for all VOA PSCs.
It will 100% be included. And what I want you to also understand is that one of the things that kind of benefits us has changed over the last few years is that now we have all of these software capabilities where I can get on a call with you, Nadia, or one of my paralegals can get on a call and just have a regular conversation for 30 minutes, right? And then take all of that and transcribe it into an affidavit, turn it around and have
I think actually, my story when I was writing, for me, it's better for me to talk direct and explain than writing, because when you explain, it will be most clear. And, someone has a camera.
You might some spokesperson? You're stealing my job. I don't want to steal anything. Lies.
I think hold on. Let me mute you, Edwin. Here we go. Yep. I think we had somebody. All right.
Yeah.
If you're not talking, I'm going to go ahead and mute you guys. All right. So Nadia, what you've pointed out is a really solid point. So when we get you guys on the phone, we'll make sure that we're recording. We'll make sure that we transcribe it, and that your entire story makes it into that what am I trying to say? Into that affidavit, so that when we send it over to the government, we have a full story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're right. Thank you so much.
All right. Marie, you had a question.
Yes, I have a question in regards to retaliation. I think kind of mentioned to you before that I might be dealing with retaliation and it's still going on. So I'm not sure if I should send another statement to you via the platform.
Yes. Marie, the default answer to should I send you more information for everyone who's listening is yes. You cannot overdo the information. We can always, it's like a lump of clay, right? It's kind of like if you're making a statue, you can always pare down. It's always easier to pare down too much information than it is to go back after we've submitted a document and say, oh, well, we forgot this, right? So just because what you guys can't see, so because of the way this is set up, is that every time you add a statement to that client portal, it just falls in succession, right? So it's not like the reason I'm having you communicate with me through this portal is it eliminates the risk of it getting lost in an inbox folder somewhere, right? Because when you send me over something, Marie, it goes straight into your case and one channel of communication. I could go to Marie, your case, go to communications, go to client portal, and everything you sent me in that client portal is there.
Okay.
Order what you sent. So the default answer to should I send you more information, Joe? The default answer is yes. Right now, if you start sending me cookie recipes, I will be grateful. May not help very much on your case, right? But if you know, we have enough smart people in the building to separate out the wheat from the chaff, the stuff that matters, it doesn't. And some of you will listen. Don't worry. Some of you will put stuff in your communications that is not super legally relevant, right? You may put something in there. I've read it. It happens many times. You know, my boss was unkind to me when she was nicer to other people. That's relevant to your personal story. That's relevant to how, you know, to the quality of your quality of life when you were working there. Unfortunately, the law is very clear. Your bosses are allowed to be jerks. They're just not allowed to be jerks to you for illegal reasons, like you brought a lawsuit. They can't be a jerk to you because you brought a lawsuit. They can't be a jerk to you because of the color of your skin or because of your gender or because of your political affiliation or because of where you were born. They're not allowed to be a jerk to you for those reasons, right? So if we suspect or they say something, you know, I had a lot of veterans cases, and every now and again you'll have a boss that says, well, you veterans think that you're in blah blah blah, right? And that tells me that this person has a problem with my client's veteran status. Or if somebody were to say something like, you know, all women do this or all women do that, or all people over 50 do this or all people over 50, then that's the kind of stereotyping that I can use against the employer. But but listen, I'm not terribly interested in having you folks edit. Just tell me your story. Let me do the editing.
Okay, sounds great. Will do. Thank you.
Yeah, and listen, that goes for everybody on this call and everybody you talk to. Do not go to the trouble of trying to edit. We're not charged by the word. Just put as much of your story as you want into this portal, and we'll pare it down and send it back to you. And if you're like, Joe, I really want this to go, you know, I really want the fact that they gave me, you know, they burned my grilled cheese sandwich. I want to make sure that goes into the thing. I'll explain to you why the grilled cheese sandwich doesn't matter. But for now, just put it in there. Jeffrey.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, thanks. Everything you've said so far is extremely interesting and important, but I'm not sure, and I've sent you an email about this. As a W-2 employee that was riffed by the State Department, and we believe there's a lot of us in the group that believe that the RIF was conducted in basically an illegal manner. They set up different dates. They went ahead and changed the regulations after they already had a list set up, things of that nature.
Sure.
I'm trying to I just want to hear from you, how do we fit into what you're trying to do?
So Jeffrey, there's just so one for a couple of reasons. Like everything you're talking about is what lawyers call actionable, right? It's just a different lane, and that's one of the things that you haven't heard me speak before, probably. It's just your first meeting, but I will tell you that, like, one of my, you know, in air quotes, superpowers is figuring out how to sue the government. The hardest part about suing the government is really figuring out the Rubik's Cube at the beginning of it as to what lane. So what you're describing is first an MSPB administrative action, right? If you have to go through the Merit System Protection Board, complain because you were a W-2 Title V employee.
Actually, Title 22 Foreign Service Officer.
Okay, so in either case, right? You could be a Title 22 and a Title 5.
It could be both, yeah.
Yeah, you could be both, depending on the authority under which you were hired, right? And within that authority, that's where you start. So if you're a Title V, I look there and the Title V tells me if you want to sue the government, this is the lane you have to walk in. Title 22 may have similar language. And if you're both, I get to choose. But we look at my job is to look at the law they violated, look at and see what recourse that law creates, because they always create recourse, right? So if they said if the government did you wrong in this way, then you have to file it, you have to go to the Merit System Protection Board, you have to do it within this much time. You have to make sure you don't blow a statute of limitations. I don't think you have. Normally, the shortest limitations I've ever seen is like 6 months.
Yeah, for foreign service, we're all going to be kicked out November 10th, and we have 30 days after that to file with MSPB.
Yeah, so then you haven't. So again, you haven't blown any deadlines. You could theoretically do what David did in D.C. when it relates to the VOA. He went in and filed injunctive relief. And I can connect you with him. He did this with VOA. He went in and filed a motion for injunctive relief in the DC court that because the government didn't give and but that was a little bit different because they decided to shut down the government to shut down the entire department. Now, the State Department's the parent company, so to speak, of VOA, or at least was. It's had a really weird relationship over time.
AID also, USAID is the same situation.
Yeah, exactly. So there, we could one lane is we could just wait until they separate you, then go straight to the MSPB and say they did it wrong. If we can bring retaliatory arguments, or we could say, look, they did this because you cooperated with somebody or you did something else. But if it was just a straight, they have, to your point, like they have lines within which they have to color. And there are congressional mandates about what they have to do and what they're not allowed to do. And once you get this appointment, what has to go through, all of that business. And this cost saving measure, I mean, the courts have already weighed in and said, look, you have to have, even the DC court of VOA came back and said, no, there's an outstanding cause that says, you can't just do it because you feel like it.
Right.
Come up with a better reason than we just feel like it. And the government will likely say, well, we have until November to fabricate our reasoning for separating these foreign service officers. If you go and read, honestly, I did this between the election and the inauguration, because there was so much public sentiment about this. But if you read the thing that the administration was so eager to distance itself from, this what is it? I want to call it Action 2025 program, something.
Project 2025.
What's it? Say it again.
Project 2025.
Yeah. If you read that, I read, although I couldn't remember the name, I did read a good number. The first 100 pages of that thing. USAID was like front and center, like very tight. If you read that, it's a playbook for what the government and DOJ was planning to do when they kicked off after the inauguration. So you can look in there, and I have. That's why I'm bringing a retaliation claim on VOA, because you can look in there and see there's no every reason that they've invented inside of Project 2025 for making cuts at USAID, for example, was all 100% politically laden. It was all about the conservative rights views on family planning and so forth. And I don't honestly care where anybody on this call or any other call falls on those particular politically sensitive issues. What I'm saying is the government's not allowed in my estimation, is not allowed to use those sort of political hot button issues to make giant cuts to government programs. So that's, we can find their reasoning right there. Because again, the very first thing they did day one after the inauguration was go after USAID, which was front and center, that was the top pages of Project 2025. So
my last question. If I go through MSPB and there's a hearing, and would you be available for legal counsel, or how would that work?
Yeah, that's 100%. Yeah, I have a bunch of lawyers that are we just recently lost our last Title VII ADA person that we had in house, but we still, I know how to sue the government as well as anybody walking. So if you go through the MSPB and you get a decision you're not fond of, one of the things I'd want to do before you get through the MSPB is look at the arguments you're making there, to make sure that we preserve arguments, so that when we go up to the federal district court, we haven't forfeited anything at the MSPB. And if you've got a number of you that are like that, that are in that situation, then, you know, if you want to pass their information, pass my information on to them, it might be easier to represent. If the same sin, if the government's committed the same sin against like 15, 20 of you, it's a little bit easier to address all that in one group than it is to do it 20 separate instances.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. Well, guys, we're making amazing time. It's only 10:37. If there are no, I don't see any other hands up. And oh Lord, look, there's Nadia's hand is up again. Okay, go ahead, Nadia.
Sorry, today I have been asking a lot because it's just my first time coming here. How long do you think our case will take? Like,
Yep. So I addressed this a little bit earlier, but I'll tell you, my goal, listen, it's impossible to read the tea leaves perfectly on that front, right? But what I will tell you is that where the case is sitting now, and the things that the X factor, the thing I cannot control is what Judge Summers does. I can't control his calendar at all, right? He can take as long as he cares to. My short of me filing like a writ of mandamus at the Court of Appeals, which almost always goes nowhere. The courts are allowed to really control their own dockets, but assuming this judge gives, let's say the judge gives us a decision within the next 30 or 60 days on the issues that are before it now, right? I am hoping to have this case resolved at least to a point where you have an idea of what the government is willing to pay, within 2026.
thank you so much.
Of course. I'm always careful when I say stuff like that because again, there's things over which I have control and things over I'm in control of moving quickly when the court is.
Actually, I like the way you answered because you could not assume like
Yeah.
yeah, that's the father one. Yeah, I got it. I went to law school, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, you did. Fantastic.
Yeah. Yes.
Then you will be able to share. You will be able to share better than some in my frustration.
Yeah. Sure, I can. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions before we let you guys go? And again, I'll circulate this video, send it out to the same channels I have been using that list. And one thing I do want to do is I want to drop the form into the chat. Well, did I do that already? I think I might have already done that. Yep, I did the share form. So the form is there, that share.hs forms. If anybody that you know, copy and paste that form for me somewhere on your desktop or whatever. If you have a friend or family member or anybody that 1 degree of separation from that you think that might be benefiting from getting on one of these webinars or joining the case, just send them that form. That is the fastest path to getting into this case. Yes, it's the short answer, Karen. They are in every email I send out. These links are in every email I send out. The U.S. Government Rights website and the shared form is in every email that I send. Every time I make sure that I do that. I have a templated letter that I send out. So just to make sure I get that out there. I'm also going to make some updates to that US Gov OT rights. I'm going to add our webinars. I'm probably going to pay someone to edit them down because I don't know that there's too many people on planet Earth that want to listen to me drone on for an hour at a time. Maybe get them down to 20, 30-minute videos that people can actually digest and get those up on the website. I think that'll also help some of our non-English speakers if they can use that video and then pull it over into some AI software and get it translated into their native language. I think that's one of the things that I'm probably most embarrassed about is that I'm like a lot of my American counterparts and I'm painfully monolingual. But the good news is in the AI universe we live in now, you can take my video over and drop it in some software and get it translated over pretty well. All right, everybody. Thank you again for attending. I'll send this video around. I don't see any other questions. If you guys do have a question, I will send a text to everybody here on the chat, just because I think everybody has it, but I will put a everyone text or my email address. Close that. All right, it's kind of broken. Well, I'll send the email around today, and then it'll have my email address and a way to respond to me for reasons I don't understand. It's not really responding right now. All right, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thank you, and have a great week.